everybody is ready, I'll start reading each sentence and we'll discuss it.
Yes, ready.
Yeah, fine. So the subject being discussed is self-surrender in works. When you are working, you surrender yourself to the divine and he does the work through you. You have to do work nishkama karma, without the desire for the fruit of the work that you're. Normally, all of us are always wanting success in what we are doing. But here, nishkama karma, because if you do that, then you are binding yourself down and limiting yourself. So if you do the work according to what the divine is saying and you give your work to him, naturally it becomes, your action becomes much more powerful and much more wide. So you open yourself to many, many possibilities. So that's what he's saying. So now we read. So how do we know whether the equality in the mind is absolutely full or not? That is what he is now saying. He is going to give you the signs by which you know that your equality is improving or is nearing beginning or nearing completion or whatever. Okay, so because there's always a gradation. Nobody can have an equality of mind right in the beginning. Not possible. So the test it lays down. What is the it? Gita. Okay. The test that Gita lays down is an absolute equality of the mind and the heart to all results, to all actions, to all happenings. So he is including the mind and the heart. That means the thoughts as well as the emotions. Okay. He is not mentioning the body because the body is something very, very dense and uh, it doesn't come into this question of equality. That also is there. Mother was working, but that is very, 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 very advanced level. Okay, so your mind must not be disturbed and your heart must not be disturbed. And to disturb to what? To all reactions, to all happenings. Full stop. So very clear. Whatever is coming from the world, again and again we always insist on that because this is what the Indian philosophy mentions, but the others normally don't. The individual is always reacting with the universal. In fact, the universal would not progress without the individual, and the individual cannot exist without the universe. It's very obvious because we need everybody's help and cooperation. So the interaction between the two. So when the universe is giving you inputs, the universe is giving you data. It is coming. Your mind is having thoughts from outside. Your vital is also opening to emotions from outside. Apart from your own emotions, even the body is constantly interacting with. It is breathing air from the universe, and it is also eating food from the universe. Okay, so everything is, the individual depends completely on the universe. So when the universe is sending you data, okay, it can be very soft and sweet and pleasant, but it can also be very, very harsh and unpleasant also. Harshness includes even storms and cyclones and whatnot, but it can also include a very harsh word from somebody, okay, or an unpleasant sensation, or you eat something, it is bitter and you get the, so all these reactions from the physical world, you have your action, you have to remain absolutely unaffected by all things, even to all happenings. We are always thinking that this should not happen, that should not happen, this should have happened. We are always thinking like that because of our own ideas. But you must be very, very clear that our ideas are very, very limited. And the divine knows much better than us what to do and what not to do. So, to all happenings. Now, he is listing the things that can affect you. If good fortune and ill fortune, if respect and insult, if reputation and obloquy is calumny, disgraceful, censure, okay? That is reproachful language is used against you. If victory and defeat, sometimes we feel very elated in victory and we feel very depressed in defeat. If pleasant event and sorrowful event leave us not only unshaken, but untouched. There's a gradation. First of all, you will be shaken. But even if you are not shaken, some effect is there on you, okay? Untouched. It's absolutely like water on a lotus leaf. Even if it touches, it leaves you untouched. Absolutely, it glides off and no reaction at all on you. So, untouched, free in the emotions, free in the nervous reactions. He is using a very interesting word, free, because you are free from emotions. The emotions don't bother you at all. You're completely free of emotions, free also in the nervous reactions, free in the mental being. You are not bound by any thought coming into you. You are not getting influenced by anything. That's exactly what you mean by free. Okay? Not responding with the least disturbance or vibration in any spot of the nature. Then we have the absolute liberation to which the Gita points us, but not otherwise. Now, this is a very, very high level of consciousness. This does not happen, but this is the ideal, Surendra is saying. Now, but is it possible in the beginning? We will discuss that. The tiniest reaction is a proof that the discipline is imperfect and that some part of us accepts ignorance and bondage as its law and clings still to the old nature. There's an old nature, and the more you practice yoga, the new nature starts coming in. Okay? It's a very interesting thing that happens. The old nature slowly disappears. Your way of looking at things changes. Your thoughts also start changing character. Your emotions also start becoming more and more calm and quiet. So the new nature is entering into you and the old nature is dying. Okay. This is symbolically very well usually pictured. All you must remember that all these truths are come through images and metaphors. Okay. So the image usually is that your mother is the one who has given you birth. In the universe, who has given you birth? Nature. So nature is often seen as a mother. Okay. So that is when your it seems to be a little negative, but it's not negative. Your mother is dying, okay, in the hospital, okay, and you don't even know about it. That's the image that comes very often. That your old nature is dying and the new nature is coming in, but you're not conscious that it's happening. I know of somebody who had a dream like that, because when this was happening, he had a dream that a dream is always a vision that your mother is dying in the hospital, but you are not conscious of it. Okay, it means only that your old nature. So they mentioned old nature. That's why I'm discussing that. Okay, the old nature is dying, but you don't always perceive that the death of the old nature. Okay, so and then when the change is sufficiently big, you know that you have changed your character. Our self-conquest is only partially accomplished. What if there is not even if a tiny reaction also is there, you know that you are not perfect. But usually, tiny reaction is very, very far away. Normally, there is a very gross reaction. When someone insults you, you get angry or depressed, and you even hit back. Okay? And that should absolutely leave you absolutely calm and untouched. Very difficult to achieve, not easy. I wonder which is more uh, difficult to withstand, praise or insult. I think it depends on the individual. No? Praise will leave you very happy, but it should leave you absolutely untouched. And insult will leave you angry and sometimes even depressed. Okay? If you are a very, very thoughtful person, you will start looking at it and seeing whether there's any truth in what is being told to you. Okay? Criticize. You are being criticized and you start looking. But that's very rare. Normally, you get depressed or you get angry. So that's what Surendra is saying. It should be even a little bit. If it comes, you know that your self-conquest is only partially accomplished. It is still imperfect or unreal in some stretch or part or smallest spot on the ground of our nature. So Mother says, she says that when something like that happens, you look into yourself and you will see that there is some dark corner somewhere of which you are not conscious, and that is there, something lurking behind and not wanting to reveal itself. Then she says you have to throw a strong light on that, and it's a painful process because you have to yourself. Okay, so it's a painful process. So it's that is there. I'll tell you another dream where all these things hide. The vital is a very very big imposter. It's a charlatan. It tries to deceive you all the time. One another image I'll give you, when you see that someone is coming, a stranger is coming, and you don't like that stranger, and you go towards him, but he slowly and it disappears into a fissure in the ground. Okay, this is an image also that comes to you. Okay, sometimes a fissure. So he has disappeared. Now you don't think he is there, but actually he is there hiding somewhere in you. Some corner of your being, he is there. Okay, that's what they're saying. Look at the language. Our self-conquest is only partially accomplished. It is still imperfect and unreal in some stretch or part or smallest spot of the ground of our nature. So this image that I am talking about is so clear. Spot of the ground of our nature. This thing which is undesirable, when you try to face it, it disappears into the ground in a fissure. Okay. And that's simply saying another image. And that little pebble of imperfection might throw down the whole achievement of the yoga. Now, that word pebble is also an interesting one, okay? Because when you are on a motorbike or you are on a cycling, if you are careless and you go over uneven ground or there is a pebble somewhere, okay, particularly if you are going straight, there is no problem. But if you are going, suppose there is a turning, okay, and when you are turning, you are at an angle on your vehicle, okay, you are not absolutely vertical. And if that pebble hits you when you are at an angle, you will fall down. So it's actually a physical image that he's giving you through that little word pebble, okay, and even that little pebble of imperfection may throw down the whole achievement of the yoga. So, Sridhar is always talking of the absolute perfection. But absolute perfection comes at the last stage. But that's why he is talking of the test. You know that your equality, your nishkama karma, is absolutely faultless only when there is absolutely nothing in you which reacts to the happenings and the reactions of the physical world. Okay? Yes, told you very clearly what the moment you see a disturbance in yourself, and that also sometimes needs a little bit of observation. We are very often disturbed, but we think it is natural, there's nothing wrong in it. But actually, it shows that if you're doing yoga, you must know, oh, there's a disturbance in me. Why is it happening? Then you know that there is some imperfection in you. If it leaves you absolutely calm and quiet, is it not true that when you have a quarrel with somebody, okay, for 4 or 5 hours, there's a disquiet in the being. Maybe it's there, sometimes it lasts even 1 day or even 2 days. Okay? But there's a disquiet in the being. So this disquiet in the being should not be there at all if you are absolutely perfect. That's what he's saying. Okay? We can go to the next small para.
Shall I read?
Please go ahead.
There are certain semblances of an equal spirit which must not be mistaken for the profound and vast spiritual equality which the Gita teaches. There is an equality of disappointed resignation, an equality of pride, an equality of hardness and indifference. All these are egoistic in their nature. Inevitably, they come in the course of the sadhana, but they must be rejected or transformed into the true quietude. There is too, on a higher level, the equality of the Stoic, the equality of a devout resignation or a sage detachment, the equality of a soul aloof from the world and indifferent to its doings. There too are insufficient first approaches that can be, but they are at most early soul phases only, or imperfect mental preparations for our entry into the true and absolute self existent wide evenness of the spirit.
I have equal oneness, you have evenness of the spirit. It's a very small para, but full of all sorts of interesting things which we have to discuss. Okay. So they're saying that sometimes you can.
Rangadan,
Yes,
just I'm sorry. Last time I didn't keep my page marks. I'm unable to find the text. Can you help me with the page?
okay. Go to self-surrender in works, the chapter.
Yeah.
Okay. Then almost towards the end of the chapter.
Okay. But how?
The fourth.
Last but fourth chapter.
The fourth one.
No. I am in the chapter.
Para.
I am in the chapter, but the para I can't find.
There are certain semblances. That's the fourth one from the end.
Page 103.
Okay, found it. Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. It happens. So let's read. It's a very small, full of interesting. We'll have to see what he's saying. There are certain semblances of an equal spirit which must not be taken for a profound and vast spiritual equality which the Gita teaches. So, what are these semblances? Semblance means you will fool yourself and you will say, oh, it doesn't matter to me. I'm quite okay. I don't know, okay. And there are many cases like that. So, the first one is mentioning is equality of disappointed resignation. Suppose you are expecting something, okay, and let's say it's an example. I'll give you one example from the Aesop's fables, but you are expecting a result, okay? You are expecting 80% pass mark in an examination, and you get, maybe you even fail, but you get lesser mark. So you say, oh, it doesn't matter. You are so proud not to admit your failure that you say, it doesn't matter at all. What does it matter to me? This is disappointed resignation. You resign yourself to the result. Okay, it's a very interesting one, and the best example for that is normally given in the fox and the sour grapes. Okay, Aesop's fables. Aesop's fables, like our Panchatantra, the fox is jumping. He sees some grapes hanging on a wall, and he is jumping to get them, but he doesn't get them because the jump is not sufficiently, so he fails to get. Now he consoles himself and says, oh, what does it matter? The grapes are sour anyway. Okay, so this is the equality of disappointed resignation. You console yourself and say, I'm not affected at all. What does it matter? Okay, so that is not the equality at all. Okay, there's an equality of disappointed resignation. Then there's an equality of pride. You're so proud to admit, okay, that that nothing has affected me. It doesn't matter at all. Because if you fail somewhere and your friends or your enemies will start laughing at you and say, you failed. You don't want to be affected by that. And you say, it makes no difference to me. You're so proud that you don't accept it. But inside you are disturbed because you have failed. So that's the equality of pride. You don't want to admit that you have failed and you are affected. So the next one is equality of hardness. Okay. Suppose a fellow is there, very insensitive, and he's sleeping, okay, and you give him a huge slap, okay, to wake him up, and he's full of tamas, he's full of tamasic condition. He gets up and starts wondering what's happening, but he doesn't show any sign of distress or anger, okay. So that is insensitivity and hardness. That is not equality. Because he's not reacting in any way, it doesn't mean that he's equal. Okay, so equality of hardness and indifference. Sometimes you feel that it makes no difference to me. So what does it matter? Okay, whether I fail or I I pass, it makes no difference to me. Again, a little bit of pride is there, and indifference. It makes no difference to me. There are many children here who would say, if they failed in their exam, they would say, "Oh, it doesn't make any difference to me because I'm going to join my father's business anyway. So what difference does it make to me whether I pass or fail here?" Okay, the indifference. Okay, so all these are not the real equalities in this. All these are egoistic in their nature. Inevitably, they come in the course of the sadhana. Okay? Everybody has to go through them at some stage or other because they're all subtle variations of this equality. Okay? And all these are egoistic in their nature. 90% of the time, there is a reaction. 90% of the time. But at 10%, all these different cases can come up. So, you feel that you are not affected, but it's not true. Okay? Inevitably. Now look at that. Somebody is saying inevitably they come in the course of the sadhana. You may always feel that you are not affected, but you are affected somewhere deep inside yourself. But they must be rejected or transformed into the true quietude, not the pretended quietude, but the true quietude. Okay? The word is quietude. There is too, on a higher level, the equality of the Stoic. Now, the Stoic is one who has samatha. Stoicism was a philosophy which was propagated by the Greek philosophers. I think it was Zeno, Z-E-N-O. Okay? He is the one who said, if you don't want to suffer in the world, develop a certain attitude of indifference. Okay? Don't be affected by anything that comes in the world. You will be much happier. If you are affected, you won't be happy. So learn to not to be affected. Stoicism.
Also, Rangata, Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus.
Okay. It's not Zeno. Zeno is okay. Yeah.
And it's very interesting that Epictetus, he was a slave. You know, and
Look at
the most difficult circumstances, and he was a proponent of Stoicism.
okay. So that is the Stoic. So, but it's a much higher. The other ones it's talking about are very much grosser. But the Stoic is something good. You have to learn how to. But you are still imperfect. You are trying to make yourself perfect. So even that is not sufficient. But Srimation very clearly at a higher level. So first of all, there is a Stoic. Secondly, there is a equality of the devout resignation. I am affected, but I accept the judgment of the divine. He has imposed this on me. There must be a reason. I am unhappy, but I accept it quite. I accept it willingly. So this is the devout resignation. You resign yourself to what the divine has given you, or you think that the divine has given you. Actually, the divine never gives you sadness or unpleasantness. He always gives you the opposite. Then why do you feel that your own nature has created that unhappiness? Because of limitation. Okay? So that's the first one. Then for a sage detachment, you are a developed person and you try to not to be affected by all these things. A sage detachment. Look at the word sage. Already you are at a level where you are already wise and you are quite knowledgeable about things. So that also is not the equality. The equality of a soul aloof from the world and indifferent to its doings. All these are gradations of equality which are much better, but yet not the perfect thing. So which is the perfect thing? Which leaves you absolutely unaffected. Not even, as you say, a tiny reaction, not even a little wave, not even a wave, a ripple should not be there. Absolutely, it should be a calm and quiet surface. Surface and the depth. Okay, so there should be no even ripple. That is the Gita, that is Gita is teaching. In fact, when a person is that equal, okay, people can mistake it for insensitivity and lack of understanding and He's so insensitive. He's not reacting at all. What is this? Actually, he's at a very high level of consciousness. Okay. The first one, there also in equality, there are 3 stages. Okay, which Srivanta mentioned elsewhere in the essays on the Gita. The first one is you are free from disturbance or elation. You are also not happy, nor are you disturbed. When this is the first stage. The second stage is you feel the pain of the others, but you sympathize with them. And the third level is you sympathize, but you also have the power to do something about it. So there are 3 gradations. I remember in school when we read the first gradation that you are not affected by anything at all, then children often come out with, but then life will be so dull. Okay. It will be so dull, then no reaction at all. You are absolutely monotone. There is no happiness, no unhappiness, nothing. It will be very, very horrible state, they say. But that's the first one, because you're free from the excitements. That is the first stage. Second stage, you feel, but you're not affected. Sounds very funny, but that's the truth. Okay, you can feel the pain of others, but you're not affected. Second and third, last one, you feel the pain and you also have the power to do something about it. Okay? So these are the things. Srivanta is saying, even these high levels of equality, Stoicism, devout resignation, and sage detachment, these are also not enough. Equality of the soul, aloof from the world and indifferent to his doing, these two are insufficient. But first approaches they can be, but they are at least, they are at most early soul phases only, or imperfect mental preparation for our entry into the true and absolute self-existent, wide, equal oneness of the spirit. Now look at all the adjectives and picture to yourself the condition. It is a true one. Okay, there is no pretension in it. It is absolute. Absolute. Nothing is, you are not imposing something on you. It is self-existent. In other cases, there is an effort. You make an effort to do something. You are imposing a conclusion on yourself. But this is self-existent. You are doing nothing at all. Okay? It is, you have reached a condition where it is automatic, self-existent, wide. If it is not wide and narrow, naturally you will be affected. Equal oneness, you have evenness of the spirit. So a beautiful para where he is explaining the different grades of equality. Okay. Can we read the next one? Or it is certain? We
Shall
have
I
time.
read?
Radha, I can
Yes.
read.
Okay. Geeta will read? Okay, fine. Go ahead.
For it is certain that so great a result cannot be arrived at immediately and without any previous stages. At first, we have to learn to bear the shocks of the world with the central part of our being untouched and silent, even when the surface mind, heart, life are strongly shaken, unmoved there on the bedrock of our life. We must separate the soul watching behind or immune deep within from these outer workings of our nature. Afterwards, extending this calm and steadfastness of the detached soul to its instruments, it will become slowly possible to radiate peace from the luminous center to the darker peripheries. In this process, we may take the passing help of many minor phases, a certain stoicism, a certain calm philosophy, a certain religious exaltation may help us towards some nearness to our aim. Or we may call in even less strong and exalted but still useful powers of our mental nature. In the end, we must either discard or transform them and arrive instead at an entire equality, a perfect self-existent peace within, and even if we can, a total, unassailable, self-poised, and spontaneous delight in all our members.
So again a beautiful para where he is describing again many gradations. We will see that. For it is certain that so great a result cannot be arrived at immediately and without any previous stages. So there have to be gradations. The stages are the gradations. You, in the beginning, you try to keep yourself, then slowly your effort gives fruits, and you become more and more calm and more quiet. You teach yourself not to be affected very easily. So it takes time, but it can happen slowly. At first, we have to learn to bear the shocks of the world with the central part of our being untouched and silent. Now the question is, which is the central part and which is the non-central part? The non-central part is your body-mind life, which has been created by nature. Okay, but the central part is that which is not created. Okay, so there are two aspects. So if there is about central part, he is not saying self or psychic being. Basically, the central part is the self and the psychic being. But note, interestingly, that they are really strongly connected with each other. There are two separate things. They are separate and yet not separate. The self is the one that is above you, supporting you, and it's your individual self, but which is part of the universal self. This is a thing which you have to imagine strongly, like a wave in the sea. The wave is individual and yet it is part of the sea. Okay? So the wave sometimes can realize that it is part of the sea. That's a cosmic consciousness. You realize that you are part of the sea. Then he's saying, and the psychic being. Now, what is the connection between the self and the psychic being? The self is the real thing above, and the psychic being is the ambassador of the self. Because it is in another country. The self is in the higher mind onwards, in the spiritual planes of consciousness. But where is the psychic being? The psychic being is come down into the body-mind life. So it is in another country. The first country is your body-mind life. The second country above is your spiritual planes of consciousness. Okay? Higher mind, element mind, intuitive mind, overmind. So the self is there, and the self projects itself into the body-mind life and creates the psychic being. Now, the self and the psychic being are uncreated, aja. They are not born, they are permanent. And they have to, but the difference between the self and the psychic being is the self is immutable, permanent, infinite, eternal, featureless. Just ponder over all those words, okay? But the psychic being is essentially the divine, but in a less divine form, because it has plunged itself into the denseness of the body-mind life. So it is unconscious. Okay? You are not conscious of a psychic being. Even the psychic being in the beginning is not conscious that it is divine. But slowly, because of the essential divinity, it grows through evolution in many lives. So that's a psychic being. There is a central. When Srimda used the word central being, he is purposely not making a distinction between the two. Okay? So there, either in the self or in the psychic being, you should not be touched. And it is possible that normally what happens is we are disturbed externally, but we are also disturbed internally. Externally, the disturbance can be so much that if I don't know if any of you have experienced that, but when there is a quarrel or you get angry, even the body starts vibrating and shaking. There is a shaking in the body. I remember I have seen, and myself also I have seen, that when you get very angry, even the body there can be a feeling of trembling in the body. So that should not be there at all. And the vital is disturbed, and the mind also is disturbed. You can't think clearly. So this is, but inside you must teach yourself to be absolutely calm and quiet. That's the number one stage. Later on, Srimda is saying that you can extend this calm which you have built within yourself and extend it to the peripheries. He's using a very interesting word, the darker periphery. What's the periphery? There is if you take a circle, the center is the central part, and the peripheries are all the outer line, the outer precincts, if you want, like any city. Okay,
Circumference.
Pardon? Yeah, that's it. Okay, so the peripheries are the outer circumference. So the circumference is your body mind. So that's what you have to first teach yourself to be unaffected inside, and slowly you extend that calm to the peripheries, your body mind. Afterwards, okay, this is very interesting what he's saying. I read the whole sentence. At first, we have to learn to bear the shocks of the world with the central part of our being untouched and silent. Even when the surface mind, heart, and life are strongly shaken, unmoved there on the bedrock of our life, we must separate the soul, watching behind and immune deep within from these darker workings of the nature. The outer workings of the nature. Outer workings, body, mind, life. Afterwards, extending this calm and steadfastness of the detached soul to its instruments. Instruments, again, body, mind, life. It will become slowly possible to radiate peace from the luminous center. Again, Srimli is using the word center to the darker periphery. Darker peripheries, body, mind, life. Again, 3 words he is using for body, mind, life. First, he is saying instruments. Then he is saying darker peripheries. Then he is also using the word outer workings of nature. So all these, how he goes on changing the words. Otherwise, it will be a very repetitive style of prose. But he doesn't do that. He goes on different. And not only that, he supplies you information. Huh? When you say the outer mind can be described as outer workings of nature. Then the other one, the darker peripheries. Then the other one, instruments. Each time you read this, you get a certain image, and your impression and your knowledge of what he's talking about increases. In this process, we may take the passing help of some minor, many minor phases. So he has already referred to that earlier in the para. Now he is repeating that. A certain stoicism, number 1. He has spoken of that earlier. A certain calm philosophy, sage detachment, okay? And a certain religious exaltation. You surrender yourself to the divine. You are exalted, okay? And may help towards some nearness to our aim, or we may call in even less strong and exalted, but still useful powers of the mental nature. We may exert our mental effort and push and impose calm and peace on the mind with your mind. But Srimli is saying very clearly that that is far less effective. In the end, we must either discard or transform them and arrive instead at an entire equality. Not the word entire, not a single something opposite to that. A perfect self-existent peace within, and even if we can, a total unassailable self-poised and spontaneous delight in all our members. So not only you will have peace, but you must be able to get ananda. And Srimli says very interestingly that the ananda can extend itself to even the most unpleasant experiences. That's a very high level of consciousness, but that's exactly what's possible. Even when you fail, there is somewhere in you which is enjoying the play of the, and you see and smile at your failures. Okay. I think we have to stop here today. So we'll do the last 2 paras, again small paras. We can do it next time. We have to stop now. Yeah, stop here. Okay. Au revoir, everybody.
Merci beaucoup.